What a roller coaster. Down 20 to up 3 at half to up 15 in the second half to a tie game to the Kings winning by 21. It's always got to be interesting with the Kings. It's just, the NBA never fails to excite. I came in to this game, like right before it, I was thinking, all right, I want the Kings to take care of business, but if it's just like a 5 point lead at halftime, that'll be fine as long as the Kings, finish business in the second half. And so if you would have showed me just the halftime score and the final score, I would have been like, great, they did just that. They kind of cruised, maintained a small lead in the first half, and then turned it on in the second half. But no, it's just it's another one of these absolutely horrendous starts, just time after time. And thankfully, the Pistons are absolutely horrible. But we've seen in the past against better teams, the Kings just dig themselves into a hole and they can't dig themselves out and they crumble. But it's the Pistons, so it doesn't matter. But it's just more of the same issues were highlighted in this game. This team's defensive floor is just so low. It is just at the rock bottom. But when they lock in, when they are all on the same page, when they're playing physically without fouling, when they're in all the right coverages, they can be a really good defensive team. But the problem is when the floor is so low, if they don't come in locked in, especially against bad teams, because that's when they're most likely to not be locked in against a team with 3 wins without their best player, that's when they come in not locked in, and it leads to Detroit barely missing in the first quarter. Kevin Huerter was back in the starting lineup for this game, and I assumed that would happen at some point, and because the team reaches its full potential when Huerter is playing well, right? But I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. He had a good game in the last one against the Pelicans, even though a lot of it was during garbage time. But it was like, okay, hopefully he has his confidence back. So they took Duarte out of the starting lineup, put him in, and he again, I don't want to rag on him too badly because I thought he was good on the defensive side of the ball for the most part, which is where the Kings were struggling. So props to him for that. But I mean, his shots just don't even look close. 2 for 11 in 29 minutes, 0 for 6 from 3, and 4 points. Again, he was good defensively, but we know he can be pretty up and down defensively, and it's because he can be a solid team defender, but he's just not a great on the ball defender. And we saw that when he was against Ivy. He was getting scorched by Jaden Ivey when he had to guard him. And there were a lot of moments I didn't understand just from the Kings as a whole defensively, of them pushing up on non-shooters, guarding them way past the 3-point line. Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, and it was Kevin Huerter doing it. I noticed Juan Toscano-Anderson was doing it a lot. Even Malik Monk was doing it and picking up pointless fouls. Monk had 5 fouls in the game. JTA in 14 minutes had 4 fouls. Kevin Huerter wasn't necessarily fouling, but he was just getting driven by. And it's more acceptable for Kevin Huerter. Like, acceptable, I don't know if that's the right word. Jaden Ivey is tougher to guard and a really tough matchup for him. But when Huerter is able to play team defense, then he was getting steals, getting blocks, rebounding the ball well. And so in those aspects, he is a good player. It's just wild how he just has totally lost his shot. He did have some nice moments of creating inside for others. Like he had the one play where he kept his dribble alive and went around 2 defenders to feed it to Sabonis. But the weirdest part of the whole Kevin Huerter being back in the starting lineup is that Chris Duarte didn't play in this game. Not even in garbage time. And I don't understand that at all, especially when the Kings were struggling defensively. They went to Juan Toscano-Anderson, and I was happy to try him out and see what he could give. We also had Keon Ellis play in this game and Alex Len, so those were changes that I did want to see, although I don't understand why Keon only played 4 minutes. But Juan Toscano-Anderson, he was trying to play physically, and he was giving it his all defensively. He didn't play well at all. He was not a threat at all offensively, which we know, but that's not why he's out there. But defensively, he was just falling for pump fakes. And I said in that first half, I was like, I wanted a counter of just how many pump fakes the Kings fell for, because it was a lot. And so just not a good defensive game for him. And I'm surprised he continued to get minutes, and I'm surprised he got 14 minutes, the same amount as Barnes, who, I'll get to. That was rough. But no Duarte, going from starting a guy to not even having him in the lineup is just a bit odd to me. The offense was not a problem at all. We scored 29 points in the first quarter, and then 39 points in the second, 30 in the third, 33 in the fourth. Offense was cruising the entire time. The Kings were getting whatever they wanted from the start of the game right in the paint. The Detroit Pistons defense looked worse than the Kings. I don't know how that's possible. Sabonis, from the start, absolutely dominant. He had, I think, 15 of the first 23 points. Ended the game 37 points, 13 assists, 10 rebounds. So he got the triple-double right at the end there. And he continues to be by far the Kings' best player for the better part of a month. Or actually, the better part of 2 months at this point. And you look at Fox's stat line, and you say 10 for 19, 4 for 7 from 3, didn't miss a free throw. And Sabonis and Fox combined 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Amazing. But he was not very good. Fox was 26 points. He just doesn't look like himself at all. I mean, he just lost the ball going up for a wide open dunk. And I don't know what's happening with him. He's making a lot of just weird turnovers. And the Kings in general, like, they were getting whatever they wanted when they kept the offense simple. But they were also turning the ball over a lot. 17 turnovers, and that's been a problem as of late. Just lazy passing from Fox, from Monk, and from Sabonis. They all had, Fox and Sabonis, 5 turnovers, Monk 3. And it's just like when nothing is going offensively, you can understand more trying to feed those passes into tight spaces. But when you're getting whatever you want in the paint at all times, I just don't understand why they're trying to make all these fancy passes. It just doesn't make sense. And so that was the only problem offensively. It was like, it's either they're scoring or they're turning the ball over. They didn't miss many shots, but they also just couldn't get a single stop in the first quarter. And it was very much the same script as it always is, which is you give a team open looks at the very start, and that just gives them confidence, and they start hitting tougher shots and tougher shots. So even if you ramp up your defense, it doesn't matter because they're already confident. And that's exactly what happened with Bojan Bogdanovic. It's what happened with Joe Harris when he came in the game in the second half. It was an inside-out approach. Pistons dominating inside. Duran had it going, and then Bogdanovic got it going from outside. Bogdanovic was searching Sabonis out in the pick and roll, and then just getting open shots. And there just was no physicality from the Kings at all. I thought Trey Lyles was really poor defensively in the first quarter, especially rebounding the ball, which is funny because he got the defensive player of the game chain. He made up for it later with some great defensive plays, but he was definitely really bad. And then there were just guys not fighting over screens time after time, giving Detroit open shot after open shot. And it's like, yeah, you can look at Detroit's shooting and be like, that was kind of unsustainable, but they were wide open looks that then gave them confidence to make the tougher shots. I was never really worried that the Kings were going to lose this game, but I was just sitting there with my arms crossed, with a scowl on my face, just staring, like, just when is the run going to come? Because it better come. And it did. But the start of the second quarter was still even a bit rough. Like, the rebounding was bad. But then Trey Lyles got an offensive rebound that kind of made up for it. But then they were turning the ball over. Like, they started 5 for 5 from the field in the second quarter and didn't make up any ground because they were turning the ball over and still not playing great defense. And the Pistons were in the penalty by the 7:40 mark of that second quarter. And so it was just a parade to the free throw line, which could have been a problem if the Pistons could have, actually kept making shots, but they didn't. And you got to give the Kings defense credit. They did pick it up. Herter made some nice defensive plays. Barnes got totally pulled. So he wasn't out there. He played 8 minutes in the first half and then didn't play again and played 14 minutes total. Went 0 for 1 from the field, 0 for 2 from the free throw line. So that was fun. And just has like zeros and ones across his box score. But it was a funny game because the Kings, it's like they were playing a game of how long can we go of playing literally zero defense and still be able to lead at halftime. And the Pistons definitely helped. They, started missing some open shots and started just throwing the ball away at times. But there was a stretch of the game where the Kings didn't allow a field goal for about 10 minutes, and that spanned the second quarter and the third quarter. And so the offense, it heated up a little bit more in the second quarter, but I don't think it really was any better than it was in the first quarter. It was just, you get some stops, now you can get out and run, and there were a lot of pretty open, fast break opportunities, including the Fox one that he completely blew, but most of them were converted. And so that pumped up the offensive numbers even more for that second quarter. Keegan, it felt like he was kind of carrying the defense at times. But until there was under a minute to go in the second quarter, the Kings only missed one shot. And I think they ended up missing 3 shots because then Keegan missed a 3 and Lyles missed a tip in, which counted as a shot attempt. But other than that, they missed 1 shot for the rest of the quarter. So like I said, impressive to put on an even worse defensive display than the Kings did in that first quarter. And it truly is impressive how bad this Pistons team is. And that's why it's tough to take away too many positives for a game where you go down 47-29 to the worst team in the league. And then there's the Alec Burks flop call, which was pretty funny, to pad our lead a little bit more in that second quarter. Then you come out in the third quarter, and I wanted the Kings to play the same way. Obviously I didn't think they'd get as many stops as in the second quarter, but just don't revert to that first quarter defense. I was praying, and they didn't, and they did get out to a pretty good lead, a 15-point lead. They came out hot from 3. Duran got in foul trouble, which helped. Not that he was good defensively at all, but at least he was able to create something offensively for them. And Sabonis, it didn't matter if he had Duran on him, if he had Wiseman on him. Those are 2 really bad defenders. So he was able to just score from wherever, whenever. But then the Kings relaxed a bit, and it was turnovers, got out hustled on the boards a bit. They allowed 13 offensive rebounds. Joe Harris was getting open in the corner, and then Alec Burks caught fire. It's like, oh God, here we go. And Sabonis and Keegan went out of the game, and our offense went completely silent other than Monk for a few plays. But Fox, he was way off. I said before this game, I just wanted them to sit him coming into this game. Obviously, he's not right. And again, you look at his box score, it looks fine other than the 5 turnovers, but he's off. And he always wants to play through injury. He did it last season. And this season, there's even more incentive to, because of the played games threshold for awards and things like that. And he has to make an All-NBA team to get the Supermax. So I get why he's toughing it out. But it would be nice to just sit him down and give him a break for at least one game. It's just another one of those moments where I'm like, the Kings just lack that killer instinct. And they were just pressing so high on the Pistons non-shooters again. And they fouled Alec Burks on the 3-point line. I mean, obviously, I understand pressuring him at the 3-point line at that point because he was hot. But like, why are we pressuring Asar Thompson so far out? I don't get it. It was just a roller coaster of a game. They Pistons got it back to a tie game in the fourth because Domas and Keegan were still out. Fox was playing poorly. Herter couldn't hit a shot. Monk was turning the ball over. Although the Monk turning the ball over was when Domas came back in. But then Domas came back in, and it's kind of funny how things always flip in the fourth quarter. From Domas creating for others, and then in the fourth quarter, it becomes Monk creating for Domas, and that kind of settled things down. That pick and roll game, and then Monk kind of caught fire, and Monk had a really good game, again, other than some turnovers, but 20 points, 9 assists. Keegan, his defense was amazing. Like, he really helped jumpstart the defense. I said I thought he was carrying the defense at some points. His offense was equally as good. And he went 13 for 17, 5 for 9 from 3, and scored 32 points. But it's like, I want him to shoot even more. Like, he's so efficient, and that's great, especially as a third guy on a team. But I want him to shoot even more. But what I did like was, he hit that big step back three, and then he was kind of feeling himself there. So then he comes back down and he gets the ball in his hands, and I was begging him, please don't give it up, you're hot, shoot it. And he did. He got into the mid-range and hit a nice midi. And so it's good to see him look for his own shot when he is hot, but I want him to even look for his own shot when he's not, because we need him to be able to create and to be able to score at all times. There were some great defensive possessions in that fourth quarter to really put this game away, especially from Lyles and Herter. I thought their rotations were on point. When Sabonis would go to trap a guy on the sideline with whoever it was, a lot of times it was Keegan or as one of the guards, and they would trap on the sideline, and that was really effective, and Domas really picked his spots well to do that. And then the rotations from there were really good, with Lyles defending at the rim and Herter kind of cutting off passes from there. And that's definitely why Lyles got the defensive player of the game chain, I would have to think. He also took a charge, and his rebounding improved from the first quarter. He ended up playing 32 minutes. And we did see that the lineup of Fox, Monk, Keegan, Lyles, and Sabonis, which at this point definitely is our best lineup. And then Fox went and kind of closed the game and padded his stats a bit. But I think what's cool is for this game, you saw the best lineup that we have out there, that 5-man lineup, and you saw the core four, which I love calling them the core four now. Really, the first time I heard that was because of the Toronto Raptors negotiations, where they said apparently the Raptors asked for one of the core four, and it wasn't Keegan. It's like, okay, well then it's obviously Monk. But that was the first time I heard core four, and then I'm seeing all these graphics of the four guys and their stat lines, and that's where I'm like, yeah, we got something special here, and we just need guys around them to either step up, or we got to make trades, or really both. But you have Monk with 20 and 9, Fox with 26, Keegan with 32, and Domas with the massive 37-point triple-double. And those are the guys. Those are our guys that we have to build around. The rotation around that right now is an absolute mess. Like, I don't know what's going on. Is Keon playing? Is he not playing? Herter sucks offensively. Barnes sucks sometimes, half of the time, and then half the time he's like playable. And then we got JTA playing like 20 minutes after it got announced that they're signing him to a 10-day, and then like, what is going on? Keon playing 4 minutes. Is it Alex Len at backup center? Is it not? And so it's definitely a mess. But we got our core guys, and we got to stick to that. It just hurts that the other guys are just playing so badly that they just don't even, they're not contributing to winning, and they decided to do it before the trade deadline, so they don't have any value now. Also, why can't we hit free throws? I mean, we went 10 for 14, but that's not good. Like Alex Len, 0 for 1. Trey Lyles, 3 for 4. Harrison Barnes, 0 for 2. Like, we can't have a single game where we shoot above average from the free throw line. And it just kills me every time. It would have been really nice to just, handle business in this game, be able to sit our guys in the fourth or at least the second half of the fourth. And then, because we got a back-to-back coming up against the Charlotte Hornets. So it would have been great if we could have done that. But of course we can't. But it shouldn't matter. At least we took care of business here. We go up against a depleted Charlotte Hornets team next. And we know we just lost to them at home. The same depleted team. If we lose twice to the insanely depleted Charlotte Hornets, I'm going to be so pissed. And if we come out again and just aren't locked in on defense, I hate it so much. This team is so up and down, and it pains me. Because at least last season, it was just like, okay, the offense is going to be really good at all times. The defense is going to be really bad at all times. And it's just, can we hit enough threes and we'll win? Or can Fox close it out in clutch time? But this season, it's a whole nother level of our defense being so bad. But then sometimes the offense is bad too. That wasn't the case in this game, but it has been. And it's like, no, now sometimes the defense is average, but now the offense is bad. It's just like up and down, up and down. It's so frustrating. And we have a better record this season than we did last season at this point. It doesn't feel like it, but we do. And that's what matters at this point, especially because we got the trade deadline where we can still make moves. And we absolutely have to do something. It doesn't have to be the biggest move, but just some defensive guys, please. I saw Marcus Smart being mentioned on King's Twitter today. That would be great. I think it's funny to look at the plus minuses from a game like this, from a game where it's so up and down, and the runs in short periods of time are just massive. And so you have Sabonis plus 28, Keegan Murray plus 32, and then you got Barnes at -9 and Fox only at +2, and Herter is somehow plus 16, and Trey Lyles is plus 31, but then, JTA is -6, and Monk is plus 18. And I think that the plus minus, I think it does a pretty good job in this game of reflecting how certain guys played. Where you have Barnes just being nothing. You have Fox barely being positive. And then you have Sabonis, Keegan, and Lyles being big positives, Monk being pretty big positive, and then Herter also being positive for his defensive contributions. I think if this team made no moves going into the playoffs, we could win a playoff series, maybe even 2 if things fall perfectly, but that's max. And we could very easily lose in the first round. And it's so matchup dependent, I think, for this team. Are we playing the Pelicans or the Clippers? Yeah, we're losing. Are we playing anyone else? We got a shot. If we're playing OKC, we got a really good shot because I think we match up really well. Timberwolves, Nuggets, we're probably losing, but at least we have more of a shot than Pelicans and Clippers. That's how I feel right now, just based on the matchups. I feel like the Pelicans and the Thunder are just the exact opposites in terms of how we match up with them. And we have to make some sort of move. Again, it doesn't have to be for a Pascal Siakam, but we have to do something because I just feel like it'll kind of be a lost season if we don't do something. And now there'll still be positives come out of it. Like I said, we could win in a playoff series, and that would be an improvement, but it would kind of feel like a lost season because we didn't do anything to try to address clear problems that if we address them, we have a lot better shot at going further. And again, there would still be some positives out of the season no matter what. Keegan Murray's growth, he was insane today. Fox, his growth. Sabonis has been insanely good and right now is better than at any point he was last season, I think, and still criminally underrated. and Monk has improved and gotten more consistent. But then outside of those core four guys, it's like Barnes regressing, Herter regressing, and no one else really making a leap. I think Keon's been good and Alex Len have been good, but no one else really standing out. Also, the thing I love about beating the Pistons, no matter how we do it, is just going on Twitter afterwards and all the receipts being pulled of the trash talk between Pistons and Kings fans, especially during, was that the summer of 2022, where they were laughing at us for picking Keegan Murray over Jaden Ivey. There was a battle of whose city was better, which was funny. And then there's the receipt of Jalen Duren saying it's not that hard to guard Sabonis, which lacks a little bit of context, but I don't care. It's still funny to look at because he was like, it's not that hard to guard him without fouling is the context, which is still a very dumb quote because it's like, yeah, it's easy to guard him without fouling if you just let him score at the rim every time. So I just love looking at all those receipts, all the, Keegan Murray draft grades F and things like that. And the video of the Detroit front office celebrating after we picked Keegan Murray. So it was fitting that Keegan went off in this one. Also, one thing I forgot to talk about, but through Kevin Huerter's struggles, it's pretty impressive what Sabonis is continuing to do in terms of assist numbers, because last season, that DHO partnership and two-man game between Domas and Huerter was one of the best two-man games in the entire league, and Sabonis got so many of his assists to Huerter. Huerter can't hit a shot, and Sabonis is still, it doesn't matter who's around him. He's still able to rack up those numbers. And so he's beaten the DHO merchant allegations. He's still able to put up these insane numbers. But anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back tomorrow to recap that game against the Charlotte Hornets, which we should win as long as the Kings just don't suck. That is my preview of the game. Just don't suck, and we will win that game. So I will see you guys then. Peace.